Again, you see here the research process. I've done now the literature review. You see that you have few researchers, so you cannot develop a conceptual model, but you have a research question. That is why you rather go for qualitative research in order to generate theories. On the other hand, if you have an extended literature review, if you can develop a conceptual model with hypotheses, you go rather for quantitative research with random sampling or quota sampling, hypotheses which you can test with statistical models.
You start with a large research question, then you collect data with open-ended questions, you analyze the data in order to find broad patterns, generalizations and theories, and you compare these patterns with literature to generate generalizations and theories. The start point is a research question, the end point is the theory. For example, here are some questions. So what is your perception about AI, autonomous cars, smart homes or chatbots? Do you perceive control for autonomous cars or smart homes? What do you think about brain implanted chips? Which technologies will shape the retail industry? Which are the methods of qualitative research? First of all, focus groups and open interviews, where respondents talk completely free about a topic. This fits for unspecific, less limited research questions. The questions should be as free as possible and exploratory. The interviewer relies on open interview guides and it is a non-directive interview style. Participants are recruited on the basis of their similarity to members of the demographic groups targeted as potential consumers of a product or users of a technology. The question should be open-ended. However, there should be a smooth transition from one question to the next one. The session should ideally start with introductory questions to address the general topic, helping the participants to understand the broader context. The general questions should be followed by questions designed to elicit the specific information sought. The focus group should end with efforts to summarize the opinions of the participants. Focus groups are typically conducted face-to-face, but the development of new technologies has enabled investigators to conduct qualitative research online. Two types of online methods can be done. Synchronous methods allow research to conduct live discussions. Synchronous online discussions attempt to mimic in-person focus groups. Barriers to the success of synchronous online focus groups include the problem of arriving at convenient time for all participants and lack of accessibility for some participants. Asynchronous methods collect participant information through online communication, such as forums and email lists. Asynchronous online focus groups have a number of barriers to success. These barriers include sporadic participation over time, making the research less timely. The benefits of both synchronous and asynchronous focus groups include the absence of a need for transportation and ease of access. A major advantage of online focus groups is that they allow geographically diverse individuals to participate. A disadvantage is a reduced capacity to assess nonverbal behavior. Assessing nonverbal behavior can be helpful to qualitative research. Focus groups have several advantages for collecting qualitative research data. Focus group research can be used purely as a qualitative method or in combination with quantitative methods. Qualitative data collected in focus groups can help researchers decide which kind of concepts, variables, and subsequently items which can be generated for measurement scales should be included in the surveys. It is particularly adapted to approach new research topics where few research exists in order to explore the topic, in order to generate concepts and topics which are then used in quantitative research. Another method is netnography, which is an adaptation of ethnography, which is a very old traditional technique in anthropology, which is based on participant observation. It literally means writing about cultures, the study of culture that's written up. And ethnography is an adaptation of offline ethnography for online world and online communities. Ethnography is an observational research, and it is used because there is a difference between what people say they do and what they actually do. And the result of ethnography is thus discovery. Why do we do ethnography? Because of the increasing importance of the internet and digital media, social media, and of consumers who are active in these online communities. Precisely, the researcher is doing an immersion in the online communities in order to getting to know the players and to learn the cultures and rituals they have. And he will introduce himself as a researcher, and the objective is to learn as much as possible about the subject and getting a better understanding of the communities and individuals' behaviors. The next method is text, content, and sentiment analysis, where the researcher is scraping web text from online platforms. You have a tool which is called Web Scraper or Scrappy. You can scrap text, and then the researcher will use coding sheets and analysis software with R and Vivo or Swings in order to do a systematic automatic review of literature very quickly. This enables the researcher to discover new insights, patterns, and trends. Here's one example how we used qualitative research and text sentiment analysis. So the idea was to model topics with R, the software tool. And the research topic was, how does user reviews impact the app's evaluations? So in clear words, which sentiments are expressed about the apps. And we studied 9 monitoring health applications in the US from 2014 to 2020 with app reviews scrapping. In total, we had almost 400,000 reviews about the health applications. And from the reviews, with the words used on the reviews, we generated 8 topics with R. 4 topics refer to well-being, matrix sleep, matrix food and activity, matrix heart activity, and matrix weight. We have 1 topic about user experience, 1 topic about customer relationship management, 1 topic about connectivity, and 1 topic about personalized communication. Under the topics, you can see the words that enabled us to generate the topics. For example, for matrix sleep, sleep, night, display. For the matrix food activity, food, calories, workout. For the matrix heart activity, heart rate, wear, tracking, and so on. So you see the words that enabled us to generate the topics. Then in the next step, we related the different topics to the evaluation scores of the app between 1 and 5. 1 the lowest evaluation, 5 the highest evaluation. You can see that connectivity of the app contributes most to the lowest application rating, whereas, for example, the matrix food activity contributes to the highest application rating, that is the score 5. And you can see also, for example, customer relationship management is badly rated in green, user experience 2. So mainly the matrix food activity and matrix sleep activity is increasing the score of evaluation from 1 to 5. Then we ran a logit regression, and you can see that matrix sleep, matrix food activity, matrix heart activity is non-significant in terms of impact on the rating of the app, whereas the matrix weight, user experience, customer relationship management, connectivity, and personalization impacts highly significantly the rating of the applications. In other words, improving the characteristics, the attributes on matrix weight, user experience, customer relationship management, connectivity, and personalized communication would improve also the rating evaluation of the application. Another example shows the same procedure. So we generated topics by analyzing several hundred thousands of reviews on an application, a sports and health application. And so we generated one topic about personalization with words such as customize, expected well-being with words like health, status, improve, weight, a topic quantified self with related words such as advantage, data, time, physics, intrusion into private life, to intrusive, customization, a topic about automation, human, missing, and a last topic about connectivity. Connect, use, information, customize. So we generated this with a word count and topic analysis done by R. And then in the next step, we combined the qualitative approach with sentiment analysis with a quantitative approach because we measured the impact of the topics we generated by the text analysis on a questionnaire with items and measurement scales about subjective well-being, and subsequently the impact of subjective well-being on intention to use, where we used the measurement scale of Davis for the technology acceptance model. And you can see here that personalization has a highly significant positive impact on subjective well-being, as well as automation has a highly significant impact on subjective well-being, and connectivity also a high important impact on subjective well-being. And in turn, subjective well-being has a highly significant positive impact on intention to use the application. So this last example shows how you can combine qualitative research first, generate concepts or topics, and then you can measure how these topics influence measurement scales, which are well established in literature, such as, for example, here subjective well-being, intention to use. And so it's a good example that you first explore generate concepts, and these concepts are then directly tested in terms of their impact on mediating and dependent variables. Quantitative designs. The starting point is that you use theory, you establish hypotheses from the theory in your literature review, you will operationalize your variables and measurement concepts through measurement scales, you collect data, will validate, reject the hypothesis, and validate or confirm or reject hypotheses. When knowledge and literature is well established, you should use this approach as you employ an explicit existing theory, for example. The basis of quantitative research are the hypotheses, which are shown in a conceptual model or an explanative model. So here you can see 3 independent variables influence a single dependent variable mediated by 2 mediating variables. For example, data collection concerns, data usage concerns, and data protection concerns are the independent variables which should influence positively perceived risk and negatively influence trust. And in turn, trust should positively influence data disclosure willingness, whereas perceived risk should negatively influence data disclosure willingness. So the basis are the hypotheses. Another method in quantitative research are causal experiments, where you have 2 groups with different treatments on X are compared in terms of Y. For example, you can see here, variable X is the experimental group with a loyalty program, and the control group is without a loyalty program. The 2 groups have the variable X, which are the independent variables, that is the loyalty program, and how this impacts the dependent variables, Y, purchase behavior. And then the purchase behavior is compared. And then you can see if the experimental group with a loyalty program has higher, more intensive purchase behavior than the control group without a loyalty program. In quantitative research, researchers generally work with questionnaires based from established measurement scales. These scales come from articles, which you generally find in the appendixes of the articles, but there are also books, for example, the Handbook of Marketing Scales, Multi-Item Measures for Consumer Insight Research. So there are different books, and in these books, the scales are developed by researchers with research protocols, and it is very important to not to invent measurement scales because they exist. And so you have, for example, you have seen trust, you have seen intention to use, you have seen loyalty, you have seen privacy concerns. All these scales exist, and a lot of more, hundreds of or even thousands of scales exist. You should use these scales coming from the articles because professional researchers have developed them. And only specialists and professionals can develop new scales. And so it's an own job for a researcher to develop scales. If you want to measure temperatures, you would never have the idea to invent a thermometer, because a thermometer, the measurement instrument, exists, measured by degree Fahrenheit or degree Celsius. That is why my recommendation is use the scales from established measurement scales. Ideally use scales from A+ or A, or at least B journals, because this gives you the guarantee that the scale is of good quality. This leads me to the psychometric criteria, quality criteria of measurement scales, because they should fulfill different criteria in order to be valid. First of all, objectivity. The results should be independent of measuring time, persons, samples, geographic places, etc. This corresponds to one of the main criterion. So whenever you measure a phenomenon in Germany, in different cities, Hamburg, Munich, or Stuttgart, the results should be the same. In the same sense, also independent of time. If you measure the phenomenon this year or last year, the results should be the same. The second criterion is reliability, which shows if the measurement survey is repeated under the same conditions and which would bring identical results in remeasurement. That is why researchers use often a retest method in order to replicate the results. And the third criterion is validity, to the extent to which measurement instrument measures what should be measured. This is generally measured with the Cronbach alpha or the Joris-Koch criterion. So we have different tools which we use when we do factor analysis, exploratory or confirmatory factor analysis, which gives you indication of reliability, that is that all the items measure the same phenomenon. Convergent validity, that the items within a scale are highly correlated with the concept or the variable. And finally, discriminant validity, that is that the different concepts, so the items within a concept or a variable, are not at all correlated with other concepts. For example, we have seen trust and we have seen privacy concerns, so the items creating privacy concerns should be highly correlated with the concept privacy concerns, but not correlated with the items that measure trust. And this is called discriminant validity. So let's see some examples about the methodology used.
Once you have found the scales, you have to put a table, summarize the scales with the items, cite the scale's origin, information collection concerns, for example, Hong Kong. You have to adapt the items clearly, because they're coming from other contexts. So
the next step is in a research to test your model. We did an exploratory qualitative research first. Now we had our hypothesis. We know more about our topic. We have a formalized hypothesis. So in this case, we could do a choice for quantitative methodology. This is what we did. So we did 2 survey waves. So first of all, we surveyed 303 students. And then in the second wave, we surveyed 342 persons, kind of snowball sampling. So we ask students to survey their parents, grandparents, in order to have a more representative sample. The sample, so we have 40% women, 60% men, who only users who really use smart connected objects, and we primed them with a video about agenda, Google Agenda, that is connected to IoT and that simplifies our life. So with a video, and you can see mainly younger generations, but we have also some baby boomers. We used only existing scales, so we did not invent or created scales. The scales were reliable according to our the common measures, and here are the scales. So we used perceived utilities by Davis and colleagues, and so we adapted them. For example, my smart connected object is a good assistant during my daily life. It helps me perform my task faster, makes my life easier, and is very useful. Perceived ease of use, we used also the Davis scale. So it refers to, I find it easy to use my smart connected object. It is clear and understandable. I feel competent to use it, and it's adapted to my daily life. The usage is attention usage. I use a lot of my smart connected objects in my daily life, whenever it's possible, when I need it. Word of mouth. So I would recommend smart connected objects. I would encourage my friends and family to use connected objects, and I would talk positively about connected objects. And so you see all these scales are existing. Right? We found them in articles. The utilitarian value was measured by Arnold and Reynolds, and so it allows me to communicate with my entourage, to find new friends, to find information on a topic, have latest news on my favorite topics. It's helpful for professional future. Consumer well-being, we adopted it from, or we took the scale from that I actually used with my co-authors Andreas Munzel and Jean-Philippe Gallon. It's published in Technological Forecasting and Social Change. So you see the conceptualization of well-being is quite easy. So we actually integrate experiential hedonistic aspect. It's entertaining, it's relaxing, it's an escape, it's delightful. So you have more the aspects of joy. It improves my health conditions. It improves my quality of life, well-being. It makes me less depressive. So the psychological well-being. It makes life more exciting, makes me more happy. So the affective well-being, and I feel better. So the physical well-being. So we use a scale which we developed for our both articles published in 2015, and we used it also there in this study. Sorry, it was too quick. Innovativeness, no, it's an established scale too. So if I hear about a new technology, I like to try it. I'm generally the first to use it. So innovativeness, privacy concerns from Hong and Tong. So it bothers me when smart connected objects ask for my personal information. I'm concerned if they ask for too much information. I'm concerned if the information is sold to other providers. So you can see here some items. Social value, so it improves, the smart connected object improves the opinion my family has about me. It promotes me socially, improves the way I'm perceived, and it helps assert my self-identity. So some items about social value. And trust, my smart connected object is trustworthy, handling my personal information, and it fulfills its promises related to my personal information. And so all these scales exist. We tested this, and this is also what we will do with factor analysis. And so you can see these indicators should be higher than 8. And so the Cronbach alpha is higher than 8. And so which means that the scales fit well to our context, and we can be applied. And all these indicators show that the scales can be adapted to our context. And this is what you will learn when you have quantitative methodologies. I won't focus a lot here. It's the same for all our scales. So we have different studies. So the scales all worked well according to the different. We have different samples. So for the smart home, so with 100 persons or 102 persons in France, 88 in Germany, 111 in China, 44 persons are women, 56 men. The average age is 37. We primed the respondents with a video before answering the survey. So they looked at the video with a future smart home in order to show them what this smart home can do. We did the same for an autonomous vehicle where we had 207 respondents in France. Almost half of them are men and women. The average age is quite younger because it was a student sample. And again, we showed a video about a level 5 car, so a fully autonomous car before the survey. So we used different established scales. For example, for environment protection concerns, there are 3 items. For example, a smart home or a smart car's connected services would allow me to protect the environment. A smart home and its connected services would allow me to save energy. A smart home and its connected services would make it possible to pollute less the environment. Or social recognition was measured with a scale coming from Sweeney and Suter. A smart home would give me a more acceptable image of myself. A smart home or smart car would improve my friends and family perceive me. A smart home would give me better social recognition. We measured well-being with Munzelmeier and Gallon from 2015 with different items. I enjoy using smart connected homes because it relaxes me. Using smart connected homes is an escape. Using my smart connected home is delightful. My smart connected home improves my health conditions. My smart connected home allows me to do more sport and therefore improves my health conditions. By using my smart connected home, I definitely increase my quality of life. My smart connected home contributes positively to my well-being, etc., without going too much into detail. Then we measure perceived privacy concerns with the scale from Hong and Tong. For example, with items, it bothers me when my smart connected home asks me for personal information. When my smart connected home asks me for personal information, I think twice before providing it. I'm concerned my smart connected home is collecting too much personal information about me. I'm concerned when I give personal information to my smart home for one reason, the provider could use the information for another reason. And so on. Perceived technology security was measured with Young and Lee. A smart home would help make my daily life safer. A smart home would behave better than me to manage complicated situations. A smart home would help to reduce human errors in complicated situations. Perceived technology security was also measured with Young and Lee. A smart home and its connected services could lead to dangerous side effects. A smart home and its connected services may not be completely safe and could represent a potential physical risk. A smart home would give me the impression that I lose too much control to technologies. Trust was measured also with Hong and Tong 2013. I think that a smart home would provide 100% reliable services. I think a smart home and its connected service would not fail me. I think a smart home and its connected service would be 100% trustworthy. We measured the TAM or the UTU2 variables from the technology acceptance model with different items. So for performance expectancy, we used Venkatesh and colleagues 2012. A smart home would be good assist in my daily life. A smart home would help me save usable time in my daily life, would make my everyday life easier, and would increase my efficiency. Effort expectancy was measured also with Venkatesh and colleagues 2012. I would find it easy to use and set up a smart home and its connected services. I would find it easy and become skillful by using a smart home. I would learn quickly how to use a smart home. And finally, intention to use from Venkatesh and colleagues 2012. Looking at its benefits, I intend to live in a smart home in the future. If I had access to a smart home, I intend to live in one. The probability that I rent a smart home in the future is low or high. And finally, consumer innovativeness was measured with Steenkamp and Gielens from 2003. If I hear about a technology, I like to try it. I'm usually the first one to use a new technology in my entourage. I'm generally hesitating to use a new technology, so reversed item, and I feel able to use a new technology by myself. So all these scales were adapted to the smart home or autonomous vehicle context. We used scales from 1, not agree at all, and 7, absolutely agree with the item. And then we performed reliability and convergent validity analysis. So you can see the different scales. So reliability means that all the items measure well the concept, the phenomenon. We have 2 indicators, the Cronbach alpha, which should be higher than 0.7, and the Euroscope growth, which also should be higher than 0.7. So you can see here that for perceived hedonism, that it's 0.88, almost 0.9, and the Euroscope growth is also higher than 0.7, 0.88. You can see for social recognition, the indicators are high too, so 0.93. So the reliability of both scales is very good. And convergent validity means that the items are highly correlated within the concepts. So this should be higher than close to 1. So you can see that the convergent validity for hedonism and social recognition is satisfactory. For privacy concerns, reliability is good, as the Cronbach alpha are high and the Euroscope growths are higher than 0.7, and the convergent validity is also satisfactory. You can see for technology security also the reliability and convergent validity is satisfactory. Effort expectancy, performance expectancy, and behavioral intention to use also have high reliability and convergent validity, because the Cronbach alpha is again higher than 0.7, the Euroscope grows 2, whereas the convergent validity rho is close to 1. And subjective well-being is also satisfactory in terms of psychometrical properties. And finally, we measure discriminant validity, which means that the correlation within the concepts should be higher than the correlation interconcepts. So we can see here, for example, perceived hedonism has a higher correlation with perceived hedonism than with all the other concepts: social recognition, privacy concerns, technology security, technology trust, effort expectancy, performance expectancy, well-being, behavior intention to use, and innovativeness. So you can see the 0.79 is higher than all the correlation with the other concepts, because discriminant means that the concepts should really measure only the phenomenon, for example, hedonism, and should not measure the other ones. Here you can see for social recognition, again, the correlation within the concept is higher than the correlation with the other concepts. And this is valid for all the other concepts. You can see here privacy concerns, technology security, technology trust have always a higher correlation. For example, here 0.74 for technology security. So it's higher than all the correlation with other concepts, namely trust, effort expectancy, performance expectancy, and so on. So this is important to measure. This is done with statistical software. The Cronbach alpha is calculated with SPSS with a method called reliability analysis, whereas the Euroscope rho and the convergent validity rho is calculated with a tool using structural equation modeling, for example, this Amos IBM. And the discriminant validity is also calculated with structural equation modeling when you're using Amos. And the study about the chatbots was also done in France with Flybot, which is a real existing chatbot where we asked the respondents to search a flight before answering to our survey, so a flight from Toulouse to New York. And then we asked them how it worked, and our sample, again, it was a student sample, more highly woman-oriented, 73% women. The average age is quite young. It's also the main limit of these two studies. And then we used established scales, which we adapted to the context. The scales are Likert scales from 1 to 7. 1, I do not agree. 7, I fully agree. And the scales are here without going too much into detail. So the scales are existing. For example, competence of this Flybot, of the chatbot, comes from Van Dolen and Sirdemuk, which we adapted. For example, Flybot is efficient, Flybot is thorough, Flybot meets my needs, Flybot performs as I expected, competently handles my request, Flybot is useful. This is about reliability, it's reliable, gives me useful information. Responsiveness is measured with response quickly, immediately. Empathy is measured with Hausmann. Flybot is sympathetic, honest, attentive. Credibility, Flybot is credible, impartial, well-informed, qualified, and expert. Tangible elements, Flybot has attractive messenger colors, website colors, attractive appearance. Ease of use with Davis, the TAM model. Flybot is adaptable, is understandable, is easy to use. Perceived usefulness also with Davis. Flybot gives useful information. Exact information is efficient. Trust with Flybot engages me, puts my interest first, keeps its promises and intention to reuse with Zeithammel. I will keep using Flybot. I will give positive comments on Flybot to others, which is positive word of mouth. So you can see the service quality dimensions were measured with the service quality model from Parasuraman: competence, reliability, responsiveness, empathy, credibility, and tangibles. Various perceived ease of usefulness and intention to use were used with the TEM models. Again, we performed reliability and convergent validity and discriminant validity analysis. And you can see here again, the Cronbach alpha are all higher than 0.7. The Euroscope yoke all higher than 0.72. So indicating high reliability of the scales. So again, the scales measure well our phenomenon. And the convergent validity, the rows are also close to 1, indicating good and satisfactory convergent validity. And the discriminant validity is also satisfactory, because we can see here again that the correlations within the concepts, for example, competence is higher than the correlation with all the other concepts. As we can see, reliability, responsiveness, empathy, credibility, tangibility, perceived ease of use, perceived utilities, and trust. And you can see here again, for all the other concepts, for example, reliability has a higher correlation within the concept reliability than with all the other concepts. So discriminant validity is also satisfied. So in summary, we have very good psychometrical properties of the scales and can use them for our study. This is the methodology chapter. We used a sample. We chose a field study methodology with online questionnaires, and the questionnaires were administered by a professional panel provider in the US called Research. And so we developed a questionnaire, and this questionnaire was sent out to major firms in the US, strategic business units, in large firms. So we did not consider small and medium-sized firms, but only large firms, US-based B2C manufacturing and service firms that have invested in big data technologies. And we got a sample of 301 managers, marketing managers, who answered us. Here you can see the different sectors: finance, manufacturing, retail, hospitality. You can see here also the SBU revenues, the position of the respondent. So you see a large part: chief marketing officers, marketing directors, senior marketing managers, CEOs, the smaller part, and CRM directors. And so this is our sample. Our questionnaire was based on established scales. So this is also what you will see in the future. We have measure instruments with which we measure our concepts. So we don't develop it. It's like in medicine. Nobody would have the idea to develop a new measurement instrument to measure the body temperature. We have the thermometer. We have it with 2 scales. We have it with degree Fahrenheit. We have it with degree Celsius. But nobody in the scientific community would think now to develop a new measurement scale. So this is also in social science. We have measurement scales which exist, which you can find in the article. All our measures are adopted from scales which are validated in prior studies. We measure them on 7-point Likert scales from 1 to 7. Okay, then this is, I will overgo that. So there are some procedures to measure if these scales are reliable and valid. So I won't focus on that today because it's just in the beginning of your research. But you have to know that you will do some statistical analysis to see if your scales measure well your phenomenon. And we use regression modeling, also called structural equation modeling, which is also a statistical model which you will learn here during your DBA lectures, which is used to analyze our model. So here you can see the different scales. I will switch through quite quickly, but to give you an idea, how did we measure big data technology resources? So in our questionnaire, the questions, there are three items or three questions. Our SBU has a state-of-art big data IT infrastructure. 1, not agree at all. 7, completely agree. Our SBU uses big data tools to gain a competitive advantage. In general, our SBU collects more data than our primary competitors. So for all these concepts, we have the scales, so with different items. So the question was quite long. So we measured also marketing capabilities through pricing, product development, channel management, and marketing communication. So you can see here the different items and so on. So all the different concepts were measured with existing scales. Profitability, marketing or farm performance we measured with customer satisfaction, market effectiveness through growth in sales revenues, customer acquisition and increasing sales to existing customers. So this is how we measured it. The scales all worked well according to the different reliability and validity criterions. And so Cronenbach alpha is higher than 0.7 for all the scales. The Euroscore rule is higher than 0.7, so it's also required to have urgent and discriminant validity. And the convergent validity rules are close to 1, which is also an agreed measure in the scales work well.
Then you use, you have to choose the data methods or the type of questions. So nominal variables are only used for moderating variables. You mostly use either ordinal or rating variables to measure all these different concepts. So use nominal only for moderating variables in order to measure, for example, gender, or the country of origin, or the income, or the job. And then according to the data, use different tests. If you have only nominal variables, you can use a chi-square test, but mostly you have metric variables, rating scales. Then you use a traditional methods such as ANOVA regression. You can start out with descriptive statistics, and because in order to have a feeling for the data, it's always good to do descriptive statistics through frequencies or medians or means or factor analysis.
Feel the funky beat deep inside me. The rhythm sets me free. I feel the funky beat. sound.